Welcome. Thank you again for joining me today. Today is going to be all about moving in joyful ways. We're going to be raising our energies and just finding some joy in all of our movements and in our practice. Not planning anything special for props today. If you'd like to, you can have that blanket handy for underneath the knees or for underneath the bottom. And of course, I have my journal for at the end of the practice with a little prompt to keep our joy going. So let's go ahead. We're actually going to begin in a child's pose position. So take a moment to come around, maybe pat up the knees if that feels supportive for you. And instead of just landing straight into your child's pose, I kind of like to do a little wiggle and a little check-in, just like we do in seated, kind of taking those hips a little bit side to side. And bring those knees nice and wide, big toes to touch, and then take the hands to reach far up above the top of your head, towards the top of your mat. And then just spend a few moments, maybe wiggling the hips out a little bit more, seating that pelvis down, and then just melting down into the earth. Might need to broaden the elbows out a little bit wider to give some relief in the shoulders. And just taking a couple for nice, long, deep breaths. Taking this time to welcome yourself to your space and to your practice. Raise up onto those fingertips and walk the hands over towards the right side of your mat. Shift your chest in that direction. You can take the right hand on top of the left hand. And then feel this nice, good, deep side body stretch. We're going to really root down through that left sit bone and left knee. See if we can find a little more space along that side body and into that hip. And then coming back up onto the fingertips, recenter for just a breath and a pause in the middle. Then raising up onto the fingertips, we're going to walk the hands over towards that left side of mat. Maybe right hand comes on top of that left hand. Root down through that right sit bone, right hip, and find this nice, good side body stretch. And we're going to come back up onto those fingertips, walk the hands around to the front. We're just going to draw those knees in, come into our tabletop position. In our tabletop position, we're just going to give a little love to the hands before we start to flow here. So we're just going to take a moment here to widen the hands, and then we're just going to turn one palm at a time in towards the body. Now, if that feels too intense, turn the fingertips so that they face the wide edge of your mat. And then walk the hands kind of forward and back, just testing to see what feels good, what's appropriate for the stretch in the wrists. And then we're going to sort of find a little rocky movement back and forth a few times. And again, the closer you have the hands in towards the knees, the more intense the stretch is going to be. We want you to find that boundary of the stretch, just like every other part of our body. Let's be kind to our wrists here. Our hands that do a lot of work for us, just a couple more moments rocking back and forth. And then just notice what happens if you kind of find a little circular movement, maybe a little shift from shoulder to shoulder, hip to hip, just whatever happens there. And take the tension out of your face as you breathe into, again, the space of our body that does a lot of work for us. And then we're just going to release that hold. Go ahead and come up into a kneeling position for just a moment. Take a hold of the hands and just create a little wave-like movement here. So just taking the hands in a wave and reverse that wave. And then shake the hands out. Once again, we're going to come down to that tabletop position. The hands are going to be underneath the shoulders and the knees are going to be underneath the hips. We're going to dip everything in and round into our cat pose. And then find that release, dipping the belly down, taking the gaze up into your cow pose. Once again, rounding very deeply, coming into your cat pose. And at the peak of your cat pose, you're going to send the hips down towards the heels and come into a child's pose for just a moment. Forearms are going to come down to the earth. Snake that chest up and through and come into your cow pose. Find that arch of the back. Rounding everything back in deeply. Then sending the hips down towards the heels. Keep that chin tucked in. Come into your child's pose. Once again, the forearms come down to the earth. Snake the chest through. Come up and through into your cow pose. Round into your cat pose. Press into the earth. Then send that tailbone back to come into your child's pose. Let's do that a few more times at your own pace. So we're coming up and through to cow pose, rounding into cat pose, and folding back into child's pose. The cadence is up to you. And as always, if there's a space that you want to stay along the way, if you want to get a little bit funky and take the shoulders side to side or the hips side to side, listen to that intuition of your body and do those things just a few more times, finding these 3 movements. And just one more time, coming up and through, and then meeting me back again in that neutral tabletop position. We're going to pay attention to our roots now, to our feet. So we're going to tuck those toes under. We're going to walk the hands back, and then you can just stay with the hands kind of floating on the earth, or pressing into the earth, I should say, and just find this little gentle rocking movement. Warming up the bottoms of the feet, getting into the ankles, getting into that fascia of the full foot. And you can continue to just stay there, or maybe you want to take the hands up to the tops of the thighs, or maybe you want to come into stillness in a toe squat for just a moment. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Adrienne, this was supposed to be all about feeling joy here. And this is one of those postures that maybe brings up a lot of things that are not joy. But maybe you can refocus and think about, oh, I am so glad that I have these feet that do so much for us, for me, to keep me set up right and lifted. And if you do this a little bit every day, I promise it will really help open up those feet, which helps not only the feet and the ankles, but it also helps that lower back. All right, we're just going to release the tops of the feet down, and then just find our little roll out of the ankles. Maybe a little tap out of the tops of the feet. Staying in this kneeling position, I'm going to turn my back to you. We're going to come into a few floating camels here. So we're going to turn those toes up, or you can keep them facing down, whichever one you prefer. We're going to bring the fingertips up and overhead, roll the shoulders down. Then I'm going to offer a couple options. Option 1 is just take the hand to that low back, dip the bottom down towards the heel. That opposite arm opens up. And then as we raise up, we switch out, bringing that opposite hand to low back. As we bring the bottom towards the heels, then lift up and switch out. The other option is to take the hand to the top of that heel, dip down, bring the hand to the other top of heel, and reaching up. So we're finding a full body stretch here, really working to strengthen those quads as we lift up, getting a nice stretch in that hip flexor when we bring that hip flexor forward, and also getting into the arms and side body. So find a movement, a flow here that's working for you. Just a few more times, lifting up. Hands could be at that low back, or they can be down towards the heels. Just taking a few more times. Nice, then go ahead and bring the hands down to the earth. Walk the handprints in front of the shoulders. Tuck the toes under and let's send the hips up to come into our downward facing dog. Spend a couple moments in these down dogs, maybe moving a prop out of the way, pedaling out, nodding head yes and no. Just feeling into the backs of the legs. Feeling that inversion of the head beneath the heart. Just a couple more times. And we're going to come into stillness. We're going to walk the hands and the feet to the middle of the mat. So hands and feet meet in the middle of the mat. Bending deep into the knees. We're going to take the hands to the front body. So take them first to the feet, then bring them to the shins. Keep that chin tucked in. We're just going to find a couple spinal rolls. Take your time to come all the way up to standing very slowly, reaching hands up. And then we're going to tuck that chin in, find that arch at the backs and the bottom back, take the arms to the side, slow spinal roll all the way back down. Maybe hands come behind the shins this time, or behind to the ankles this time, backs of the legs. Now bring the hands forward, keep that bottom back. Hands paint the front body as we very, very slowly round to come up. Reaching the hands up. Taking hands out to the side. Maybe you trace the back body this time. Taking hands along the glutes, along the backs of the thighs, taking them down to the calves and to the ankles and fold. Just a couple more times. It's nice to connect the hands to the body. This is a way of showing that body gratitude. Being thankful for all that it does for us. And a little massage as we fold forward. And round back up. Just do that one more time, coming all the way back down into your forward fold. Then bend the knees and slowly come all the way back up. Nice, and then we're going to focus into side body a little bit more. I'm just turning to face you. We're going to reach the fingertips up and overhead. Right hand is going to come to the outside of that thigh. Left hand is going to reach over. This is really good for my side sleepers here, getting into that side body. We're going to sweep the hands as we bend the knees, bringing it around, taking the hand to the outside of that left thigh. Right arm lifts, and then we bend through the knees, and we swoop the hands up. So a couple times we're bringing those hands, that one hand around, bending into the knee, finding this maybe a little back bend as we bring the arm up and over a few times. So find a rhythm that's working for you. Maybe shutting the eyes down and just feeling into this movement, making it like a moving meditation, taking it up, around and through. Tapping into the core as well as that side body. And let's just wrap it up one more time on each side. Beautiful, and then lift the arms up above the head, take a hold of opposite hand into opposite elbow. And we're just gonna tip over towards the left side. And instead of collapsing into that left foot, see what happens when you press and stay strong in that left foot and find more space in the side body. Then returning back up to center, let's just tilt over towards that opposite side. Then return back up to center, release the hands down, roll the shoulders up, and release them back down. So we're going to practice one of my very favorite postures. It's a challenging posture, so I'm going to offer several options. We're going to work into our dancer pose here. Please feel free to use a wall or a chair for balance, and also just try to have fun with this. This is our joyful practice. So let's start out by first rooting down that left foot. So we want to spread those toes down and press into all four corners of that left foot. We're going to bend into the right knee, take it behind, and we're going to capture the foot. If it's accessible, you might need to capture the ankle or just hold on to yoga pants or even use a strap here. But I'm going to turn that inner arm out. So I want to have that inside of that elbow facing outward, and I'm holding on to that knife edge of the foot, or excuse me, toe edge of the foot. So that toe mound area here, that big toe area. And then that left hand can stay on the hip. If you need to hold on to both hands holding onto the foot, you can absolutely do that too. And then we can just stay right here. Or if you want to check it out, take that left arm up. Press the foot into the hand and maybe just start taking that foot back and behind a little bit. And if you fall out, it's okay. Take a few breaths. And then take that hand back down to the hip, release that foot, and just pedal out through the feet, maybe shake and shimmy through the hips. A couple hip rolls might feel good. And then like a dog would, just shake off whatever happened on that opposite side. We're starting fresh, we're starting all over. All right, we're gonna capture that left foot, first rounding down into our right foot, bringing that heel in towards the glute, and then holding on to the inside of the foot. This is a shoulder stretch as well. So we're gonna hold on to the inside of the foot, but we have that elbow facing, the inner elbow facing out. And then we want to kind of think about that knee being magnetized to that standing knee. So I'm not letting it fall out to the side. You can just stay here, holding on to wall or chair or keeping that right hand on the hip. Or maybe you want to take the right arm up and then just start to press the foot into the hand. So we are hinging forward slightly. Keep breathing. Notice if you're digging in with the toe that's on the earth. See if you can flutter those toes. And then very slowly come back up, release that foot, walk the feet a little bit wider than hip width apart. We're just gonna find a little roll out of the hips in one direction and then the other direction. Now, I always believe that if we do something that's challenging, a posture that's challenging, we should do it twice just to check it out a second time, kind of going with muscle memory, and also just seeing like, can we focus and get this the second time around a little bit easier? Walking the feet to about hip width apart, really rooting down through that left foot. We're going to bend into the right foot and capture the inside of that foot. So I'm holding on to the inside, that cup side of the foot, taking that opposite arm up or keeping it on the hip. And it's up to you. You can start to hinge forward. Make sure that knee is still staying in line with the hip so it's not flaring out to the side. Find a focal point that's not moving and continue to breathe. And then you can even get a little fancy here because this is dancer. Maybe we move here a little bit. And then release the foot down. Shake and shimmy those hips out a little bit side to side. Pedal out through the feet. One more time. Grounding down through that right foot. Bending into the left knee. Taking a hold of the inside of that left foot. Taking that right arm up. You could just hold here. You can even use both hands to hold onto that foot and just get that nice quad stretch there. You can hinge forward. Keep some softness in that standing leg and make sure that you are not gripping in with the toes on that mat. Take a couple breaths. Raising back up. Release the foot down, shake and shimmy it out. And most importantly, give yourself a pat on the back because I know that posture can be challenging. Inhale, reaching up and overhead. Exhale, melting all the way down into your forward fold. Little halfway lift to reset spine, and then melt back down again to fold. Take the hands to earth, step one foot at a time, back into that downward facing dog once again. Now we're gonna come full circle. We're gonna lower the knees down to the earth and come into a child's pose of your choice. That can be wide knee like we started with, or that could be closed knee. Hands can be forward, or maybe you wanna take them back and behind into a little seat posture. taking these moments just to feel the effects of your practice. And just marinate in the magic of it. Then bringing the hands underneath the shoulders, we're just gonna shift over and come onto our bottoms for a moment. And once on the bottom, just roll the shoulders up towards the ears, relax them down, close the eyes down for just one more moment before we go into our journal prompt. And gentle the eyes open and picking up our journal. This is a couple part question here. So today, let's write about your best day. What does your best day look like? So describe what your best day looks like. And then secondary, who do you share it with? So writing about what your best day looks like and who do you share it with? This is where I leave you. I hope you're feeling good in the body, and I hope you find time to write about what your best day looks like. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and thank you for joining me again. Namaste.